Last week we were studying about how we can make how we can use the UI image view and how we can assign the UI image, especially when you tap on the image and it open up the photo library of iOS and you pick up the image and the image will be assigned will show up in the image view area of your app. And continuing that tutorial, that 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 tutorial is in the course material folder. I name it as Food Tracker version 2 image view fixed. I will use that project and I will continue working on putting the new table scenes into it and do some kind of um, coding relating to the table view. So this is the project that we finished last week. So I will use this project as a starting point for today's tutorial. So here I put the name like v2 and it is with the image view and the fist. And what I want to do is I want to modify on top of it, and the word fixed means that there were some kind of version issues between my MacBook and the Mac Mini in the eLab. So I changed the version of Swift and the deployment so that this project can be work. This project work on Mac Mini of the eLab machines. So just for the demonstration, I will make a new folder like testing, and I will copy this whole project into this testing folder, and I will open it up with the Xcode by double clicking on the foodtracker.xcode project. And here you can see this is the Xcode project, and you can see that this project is using the simulator iPhone XR. If you don't have iPhone XR, maybe you can use iPhone XS. And this project is target is um, iOS development target is 12.1. Sorry, if you look at the general setting, that you can see the deployment target is 12.1, and if you look at the build setting, you can see that the Swift language version is Swift 4.2. And if you hit and run the project, what you can see is with the scene, and you can see this kind of single view, and with the title, dashboards, and the button, and this image view. And when you click on the image view, what you can see is that a photo library will open up and you can pick up the photo that you like. Okay, I will choose this waterfall and the image will be placed here. So this is the tutorial that we finished last week. So I will stop the project and I will start working on this. So there will be several steps. So first thing what I want to do is I want to define the data model. So in Xcodes and in iOS programming, that is strictly following this MVC model. It is M stand for model, view, and controller. So model is basically a data model of your application. It can be database, or it can be client database, or it can be just object object data structure. So in this tutorial that we keep it very simple, we will have one data class that will store the meal and its properties. So to add one file, what we can do is we can go to the file, new, and you can go to file, and I will select, make sure you are selecting iOS, and I will click on Swift file, and I will go next, and I will name it as meal, and the remaining settings should be the same. So the file will be created in this project. So let's say I will select this food tracker, so that meal file will be put inside this, and it will be grouped as food tracker, and the target will be this project. So make sure you select this food tracker so that the file you created will be inside this project, and I will hit the create button. So this is the, so now we got the meal swift. So you can see that the meal swift is going outside of this folder. If it has happened to you, you can just drag and drop into this to make it look clear. So now what I want to do is that I will copy some code from the weak5 gist2 file that define the meal swift file. So I will copy this, and I will delete this because I do just to avoid okay, I will just paste it here. You can see that there are some kind of duplication, so I will delete one import. So this is a simple class with the name meal, and it has three properties. That is the name, photo, and the rating. These are string, UN image, and integer data type. And it has one initialization method. That means to create an object that you need to call this initialization method, and in this method it will accept the value of the name, photo, and the rating, and then it will put in its properties. So this is all you need to do, and we will use it, and we will get back here when we use it. So the next step to do is we want to create we want to add the table view scene, and we want to make it as an app entry scene. So to do that, we need to go to the main storyboard. In the main storyboard, you can see we have only one scene, and I will make it bigger so that we can see clearly, and I will go to the object library, and I will search for table view. When I type table, you can see this table view cell, or table view controller. So you see that there are three elements. The last one is in yellow color. That means it is similar level like this kind of the whole scene. It includes all these elements necessary. So this the remaining two are some UI element that you can drag and put onto the existing scene. But if you want to make a new scene with the table view, what you have to choose this table view controller. Please drag and drop it to the scene, to the storyboard, just before the first scene. Okay, so the next thing what you have to do is, you can see this arrow. Okay, I will move this a little bit just to make it clear. So you can see this arrow. This arrow means it is the entry point of your app. So currently this arrow is pointing to this scene. So whenever you run the project, this scene will show up. So if you want your app to show this table view, one user tap and run it, then you need to change this setting. So all you need to do is just click and drag and drop like this. So now Xcode will set the setting that this will be the first scenes of the app. Okay, next thing to do is that this table view controller has a kind of table view, and this is the prototype cell, the table cell. So the first thing first, I want to set the height of this row. So I will go to this properties windows and I will choose this ruler, and let me confirm. I'm afraid I might be selecting. Alright, so you see that when I click on this, it come out like this, and that is selecting the table view. And if I click again, it go deeper and it is now selecting the prototype cell. So sometimes it is quite confusing. So to avoid this kind of confusion, this kind of problem, what you can do is you can always open up this tree view of your storyboard. And this is the visual presentation. This is the name and the element of the storyboard in the tree structure. So you can see that this is the table view controller, and on top of it you have table view, this one, and on top of it you have a table view cell, and on top of it you have the content view. So what I want you to do is I want you to select table view cell. So you can either click here or you can either click this one, and you will see in the properties window that you can set the in this sites inspector, you can set the row height. So currently it is using the default height, and I want to set it 90. And when I press enter, and you will notice that this custom checkbox is ticked. So that means it will no longer use the default method, and it will treat it as a custom height 90 pixel. Okay, so the next step is we will create a custom table cell and assign it to the scene UI element. So what we are trying to do is that we will add a script file that will directly control this cell. So in our coding, when we want to modify something with regarding to this cell, we just use some properties and the method of the cell. Then we can modify the scene from our code. So to do that, I will go again to the Xcode file, new file, and this time what we are going to do is we are not making not just script file, we will also need some kind of um, capabilities that related to that UI element. So I will use Cocoa Touch class. Make sure you are selecting Enter iOS Cocoa Touch class and go next. And currently you can ignore this part, and you can delete this part, and please type new. And what we want to do is we want to make the cell. So I will type UI and table, and when I type like this, then I can see many many lists show up. UI table view controller, UI table view cell. So this time I want to choose UI table view cell. Make sure that don't confuse with this selection. Now what we are going to do is we will make a class which is the extension of UI table view cell. So notice that when I click it, earlier I typed meal, and Xcode suggests that how about we give the name as meal table view cell. So this is a kind of meaningful and easy to understand name, so I will keep this name as it is, meal table view cell. And double check with your selection that there is a subclass of UI table view cell. And we don't need to create the knit file because we are using the storyboard. Knit file, we were using this a lot when we were using Objective-C. But now we are using Swift and storyboard, so we don't need to use knit file. So make sure you don't check this. Don't check and don't do anything. And the language we are going to use is Swift. Double check for all these settings and click next. Here again, it should be inside the food tracker. Keep the setting as it is and click create. So now what we have it, we will have a new file called me.deviewcell.swift. So for the time being, we don't need to do anything special. So you can keep this as it is, and we may modify it later, but not in this week. So let's go back. Now what we need to do is that we want to pair the me.deviewcell class. We want to assign it to this cell. So we want to pair the class file called me.deviewcell.swift file to the cell of our table views controller. So what we can do is that you can use this kind of object explorer on the left. This one you can turn on and off as necessary by clicking this button. And what we have to do is that we will put some settings here. So I select table view cell, and the first setting that I want to do is enter this identity inspector, that I need to tell that this cell will be following the characteristic or properties of the class that we just created, that is me table view cell. Okay, so there are three things that we need to do. The first thing is to assign the class for this table view cell, and second thing is to give the unique name so that we can refer this cell anytime from the code. So I will give the name as meal table view cell identifier. I will give this long name, and remember this spelling, and when you refer from the code, and if something not working properly, please check the name here. Sometimes because of typing error or maybe some kind of capitalization, it may be not working properly. So this is the second thing we need to do. And the third thing is that we set the height. Sorry, this earlier I set the row height 90 in this place. Yes, I put it here, so no need to do it again. But earlier I intended to set the row height of the table view, but I put in this place, so it's already set there, so you can keep it as it is and go back to the table view and also make sure that this row height is 90. Okay, so we have done the setting about pairing this table view cell with the sweat file. And the next step, what we need to do is we will design the custom cell. Design means that we will put the UI element on top of this prototype cell. So please go to the object library, just search for image, and I will drag and drop this image on top of this prototype cell. And the way I put here is I putting this corner to the appropriate position of the corner of the cell. And the next thing I want to do is that I want to set it to be 90 width, depth, and 90 height. So in this case, it will fit perfectly with the size of the cell. The second thing I want to do is I want to add label. I click on it, I drag and drop, and I put it. And here also I will put it up to the corner of the grid line, and I click on it and I expand it, stretch it out to the grid line. So I will repeat the same thing. I will put another label and I will drag it to the end. So now we have three UI elements on these cells. So the next step to do is we need to name these UI elements. So the next step, connect the table cell UI to code. So these three elements are put on top of the UI table cell. So uh, we will open this assistant view, assistant editor, and okay, this one we may not need it, so I will close it for the time being, and make sure that you are looking at this this scenes. So be careful that now you are using the Mac Mini in eLab machine, so you have big screen, so you don't have problem to view all these things. But on your MacBook, on your laptop, that you may have small screen, so sometimes you zoom into very small so that you can see everything. If you zoom out like this, then this element sometimes may not respond as you expected. So sometimes it may not work properly. So if you have to do something with this kind of UI element to the code, make sure that you zoom it to appropriate size. That means full size of the scene. Normally the Ace code will open up appropriate uh, code file to the side, but sometimes it doesn't work as it is. So what we have to do is we need to make sure that we are looking pairing with the one that is it should be. So in this case that this one automatic doesn't go properly to what we are expecting, so I will go to the manual food tracker and I will find made view cells.swit file. So this is the file that I want to pair with. So I will make the space, enter it, So I will hide this view for a while. So this is the class me data view cell, and I make the space, and I will press the control key and drag and drop here, and I will name it photo image view. Let me double check with the name. Yes, we will name it photo image view. Second one will be name label, and the third one will be rating label. All right, so the type of the connection is just outlet. It is connecting to the object media view cell, the photo image view, UI image view, and connect. So I select label and repeat the process. Press and hold the control key and drag and drop to this area, and I will say that it is the name is name label. Make sure name capitalize LABEL, name label. It is a outlet connection type, and the object type is UI label. Connect. I will select the third label, press Control key and repeat the process, and I will say that this is rating label. This is a connection type outlet, UI label, and weak, and connect. So now we have three IB outlet here. These are UI image view, UI label, and UI label. Okay, so the next step to do is we will start uh, with the view controller. So we will do this the last stage. It requires some kind of writing the code in the project. All right, so I will switch back to the editor view, and I will add a file to our project. Go touch class, go next, and this time I will type it mail, and I will look for, I type and I press down key, and I can see that there are UI table view, UI table view cell, and UI table view controller. So I want to choose UI table view controller. I type the name class name as mail, but once I choose this, Xcode will suggest me a new name. So I will select this UI table view controller and release it, and you can see that mail table view controller. This is the subclass of UI table view controller, and using the Swift language. Go next. And I will keep the default setting inside the project, and I will create it. Okay, so now what we have is that me table view controller.swift file. This is the file that will take care of the UI table view scenes, this whole scene. So I will select this one. I will select this one and open the properties window, and I will go to this identity inspector, and I will say that this whole table view scene, it is an object of me table view controller. So in other words, that me table view controller will be the sole program that will control the behavior and action of this scene. So just for your information that we have set this kind of setting, so you will see that once I set the class type me table view controller, that in the Xcode object or object tree, that you will see it use the name me table view controller, And for the cell also, earlier we set the table cell class type class, so it became like me table view cell. So this is how Xcode will show the list so that it's easy to understand or easy to remember. Okay, after setting this thing, that we can go back to me table view controller.search file, and we have several things to do there. So the first thing to do is that we will create a kind of object array. So let me copy some codes here. So the first thing is I will declare an object array. So object declaration should come, I mean, kind of variables. So you see that this is a variable and its name is meals, and this is an object array, that an array with several objects. The type of the object is class meal. Okay, and so and what we will do is that we will add some data, add several meals object into this object array. To do that, I will just create a kind of small function, that is, that private function is called load sample meals. So I copy this, write the function to prepare the data. So copy this, and I will do it. I will put it under this, under the closing bracket of build.load method. I will put it here. Basically, you can put any place, but just don't put in nested nature. So in this private function, private means that in this object-oriented programming, private mean it is this kind of function can be called within this class only. Outside class cannot call this function. The opposite meaning is for public. If you declare a function with the name public, that means that this function can be called outside from other objects. Okay, so private function, the name is load sample meals, and what it's trying to do is it create three objects using the UI image name meal1, meal2, meal3. So it will have three images, three UI images, and what it's trying to do is you got lot me1. So again, that it is creating an object called meal1, and that is data type is the meal object, and a meal object is created and assigned to this constant meal1. Meal object is created using the name, using the me name like salad, and using the photo as a photo1, and the rating as a number 4. So the got mean, it is in case if you cannot, if you have some error creating this object, then it will throw an error and say something like this. So similarly, we will do the mail2 object and mail3 object using those photo1, photo2, and photo3, those UI image. So these three lines will create a UI image using the me1 photo from the photo library, and these three lines will create the three meal objects, and the last stage is that what we are going to do is that we put these three objects as an array. So this is typically an array with three objects, and we will add these three objects into our existing meals. So this meals means this one. So let me show it here. So earlier we create a variable called meals. It is an object array type. So what we are doing is we are adding these three things to this. Okay, this is the procedure of this function. But it is just a procedure, but the compiler will not come and execute it. So the, normally when the project is running and when the view is loaded to the iPhone screen, that the code behind is working like this, and you need to if you want to add this kind of data, what you have to do is you need to make some kind of function call from this view did load method. This is a method that iOS will call when the scenes, the related scenes or related event, a trigger event happen, and its trigger event happen, and it is preparing to show the scenes to the on the screen. And view did load means that the view is loaded and it's not finishing yet. It is the view is loaded and ready to put additional UI element. So within this stage that you should call it. So I will call this method, I will call this function here. So what is trying to do is that build during the time of view did load, that it will make sure that it will call their parent class if they have anything to do, and on top of that we will call this function. So when the compiler reach to this stage, that it will call this function and it will operate all these steps, and then it will move on and there is nothing else to do, and this is a closing bracket. So it will just show the prepare view to the screen. Okay, so this is how we load the data. So another thing is that remember that this class is a meet data view controller. It is a subclass of UI data view controller. So UI data view controller, they have their default method that you need to modify. So if you scroll down, what you will see that this file include uh, these kind of several methods. So the first thing is so you need to implement at least these three methods so that the program run properly. So the first one is you need to tell how many sessions in your table view. So that means session means something like a block of cells. In our case, we don't make the sessions, and we will just put only one session in our table view. So in this case, you need to change the value from return 0 to 1. So you are telling the iOS that, okay, this table view will have one session. So iOS, one is preparing the view, and one is understand that, oh, this view is the table view. Then it will call this method to know how many sessions you want to create, and also it will also call you that how many rows you want to create in that session. So in this case, that earlier we create three meals object, so basically we will have three cells. But in the future, maybe through the user action, user may add or delete some cells. So we cannot set the fixed number like 3. We cannot do this. So instead, what I will do is that I will just count the number of rows of the meal object array. I'll call it meals dot count. So in this case, it will count the number of objects in this meal array, and it will return this number as a value to the iOS calling function. So the last stage is to do this kind of processing. This is a very important step, and so I will keep this basically when if you are an experienced programmer, that if you are writing it everything from your own, then you will start writing the codes under this. So this is they put it under this command, so it will not take effect currently. If you want to use it, you need to remove this comment. So I will copy the code from my prepared gist file that modify table view cell for row at index part. So I copy this code and I paste it here. You can see that uh, from this part and this part they are identical, and the remaining part it is customized coding here. So okay, this is the constant as a string constant. It the assigned value is made table view cell identifier. So it's just a name, and it is the same name that you set it in the table view cell. And the second stage is it will create it will create a cell. So uh, that Xcode is normally what it's trying to do is that it will call the tableview.dequeue reusable cell. That means iOS has a screen, and when you slide up or slide down, that the table cell that out of the screen will be put in a kind of cache. And if the operating system determine that these cells will not be used again, then they will empty it and they will use it. So instead of creating an every time new one, they will reuse. So this is a method called tableview.dequeue reusable cell with identifier, and basically you need to put the name, I mean unique name, and the unique name is me tableview cell identifier. It is in this string, so it is with identifier colon this name, and for which row it is, because in this method that it receiving several parameter, the table view and the index part. So it is receiving two important things. So after going through these two methods, that iOS understand that you want to create one session and you want to create the cells the same number as the males array. In currently we have three, so it understand that it will make three cells. And then what iOS will do is that it will call this method for three cell. It will call three times by passing the two values, like the reference for the table view and the index part of the cell, which cell it want to create. So in this case, in our coding, what we can do is that we are using this table view as table view here, and we dequeue the reusable cell, and we use this cell identifier as me table view cell identifier, and we are create we are getting the cell at the index part that is passed from the iOS uh, controller. So it is making these cells, and this is S question mark and me table view cell. That means it is retrieving the cell from this index part, and it is trying to typecast, make this me table view cell data type, and I mean object type, and it make it reference into this cell. And in case something wrong, you will get and generate an error message. So we get the reference for the cell that we want to create. And the second thing is that we will use the index part of row. That means that it will retrieve the row number, maybe 0, 1, or 2, and using this index number that we will point to the meals array and retrieve the object from that meal array and keep it as a meal. And then what it's trying to do is that it will put the data to the cells. So do the cell dot name label dot test. That means the name label that we will retrieve the name from the mail object and assign to the label. And for the image is also we will retrieve the photo from the mail object and assign to this image view. And for the rating label that we will prepare the string starting with rating colon space and the rating number, because it is a number, so we need to change it to string so that it can combine string with a string. And after setting all the necessary value like name, photo, and the rating, then the cell has all the information in it, then we will return the cell. So that is returning the cell to the compiler or to this iOS program, iOS operating system to uh, to make the necessary view, table view. So this is the key function that is very important, and after this you should be able to see your project. So I will run it.